we get a lot of questions regarding parenting and also youth leaders and other teachers. So we go to schools, and I'm representing Oak Health Foundation and also Oak Health Center. The difference between these is Oak Health Center is the clinic where we take insurances, but the foundation was developed separately to be a nonprofit organization designed to raise awareness, reducing stigma about getting treatment for mental illness, and hopefully to lower the prevalence of suicide, especially in our young generation. So Oak Hill Foundation is special, just not only because it's nonprofit, but we wanted to really integrate the spirituality of the Christian faith and mental health and really merge that and marry those two. So that's what I believe, not only the biological, because I am a psychiatrist, but the biological, sociological, psychological, and spiritual, that you can't remove one or the other from itself to be able to address the whole person. And so Fully Health Clinic, on the other hand, is sponsored and developed by Oak Health Foundation to be a Christian-based. Although there's no requirement that you have to be a Christian just to come to that, but it's special because it is nonprofit and we're able to receive donations in order to subsidize care for those who are underserved, those who lost insurance and they just can't afford the full fee anywhere else. And so that is Fully Health Clinic. And today afterwards, we'll have our therapist, Elizabeth Proughton. She's in the back. She'll be joining me for a Q&A. So during the seminar, if you have any questions, you can jot them down and get ready for the Q&A. It goes by super fast. And so if you want your question to be answered, you have to raise your hand first, real quick. Alrighty. So Bridge for Good Mental Health, Fostering Relationships. So parents and teachers, mentors, everybody has a vital role in intervening the mental health struggles that so many young people face. And the statistics of our young people is 1 out of 5 will experience emotional or behavioral disorder at any given year. That is like 20% of our children. And we're just talking about those who are diagnosed, those who came to a clinic like ours. That means that statistic is higher for those who are silently struggling. And that's why suicide risk is a very, very high and major cause of death in this age group, especially age 10 to 24. It is the second leading cause of death, and it's preventable. Like, it should not have happened, right? But it is an undeniable problem, an undeniable struggle that is happening more and more with each year. The pandemic was awful, right? And so after that, we're still seeing this growth. And 90% of the suicides are related to unsuccessful treatment of mental illness. So 90% of them, we could have prevented it if we caught and treated properly. And so what can we do to help fight this struggle? Oh, I was forgetting to advance. So if there's one word that I would love for you to take home today, I know it's like very seminary and lecture, but just one word to take home with you would be this: relationships. Right? Relationship with you and yourself, you and your spouse or your other loved ones, and especially you and your child or children. And in any relationship, right, there's a process. It doesn't just happen. Of course, the technical relationship of mother, child, right, son, daughter, that's immediate, right? Of course, upon birth. But in terms of development of relational experience, that is not an overnight thing. It is a process that is ongoing. As a matter of fact, for moms and dads, it changes almost every season, right? The 2-year-old relationship with my 2-year-old is going to be different with the 5 when that child becomes 5, 13, 16, constantly evolving and constantly growing. The foundation, the formation, the fortification, There's all of these steps and all of these process and going back and forth each and every time. So let's take a moment, right, to remember how you were raised and taught, right? Because how you were raised shapes you right now, right? A lot of people say, I'm never going to treat my child like the way my mom treated me. But believe it or not, some of those things are just unavoidable if you are not aware, right? So what type of caregiver do you think you are, or a teacher if you are, right? Either traditional, hierarchical, or authoritarian, authoritative. And we're not saying one is better than the other. These are different styles. All children, students are not alike, and they will respond differently. And some of you probably have more than one child, right, in your home. Aren't they like so different? And even twins are so different, right? So that's why the way we approach and rear our children cannot be expected to have the same results, right? Whether it's authoritative or authoritarian. So what does a child or teen really need, right? What do they need? We know there's so many different lists: basic food, clothing, shelter, education. But for me today, because we're talking about relationship, I want to focus on a few terms. This is what they need is a friend-like mentor caregiver, not a friend. Right? As parents, teachers, we're not their friends. And a lot of parents have a little struggle about that because they want to be. But we can be a friend-like mentor, a friend-like parent, a friend-like guide. We are journeying together with them, right? Journeying together with them means not like dragging them along in life, but walking alongside them as we are parenting them, as we reinforce who they are, this identity that they have, not just that they are to follow a set of rules and obligations. This is a really tough part because they should follow rules. They do have obligations, right? How do we balance these kind of objectives with raising them to follow rules, right? The question I always get every other day. What do they really need? They truly need what we call love, right? Everyone will agree. But what kind of love? Something impossible for humans is unconditional love, right? Regardless. This is so hard to explain because we don't know how to do it. And if you've tasted it from God's love, unconditional love from Him, maybe there's a little bit of that ability to let that overflow from us. Because when you're filled with that unconditional love, the undeserved love from God, that we did not deserve it. He gave it to us while we were separated and an enemy of Him. Right? But if you taste that and you're overflowing with that, then that can have a power to overflow, to be able to love others around us, and especially on their worst behavioral days, right? To have that kind of agape love. For me personally, my motivation to be that bridge for good mental health for others around me and for my clients is because of the journey with this relationship of God who unconditionally loved me. Otherwise, I can't do this job unless it is flowing into me and out of me from this journey with God and being unconditionally loved by Him. And one way I do feel that is compassion. Compassion evoking compliance, and not the other way around, right? Some feel like they have to show their behavior first in order to earn blessings, right? And that's the difference between this relationship with Jesus versus all the other religions. I would never say the other religions are bad, right? We don't say that. They actually teach good. They teach everybody you should be good. You should be good. But to earn blessings is what the other religions teach, that they have to do good in order to do that. Kind of like what you do will come back to you, right? But in this relationship with God, he knows we cannot earn it. We cannot earn his blessings. We can't earn being with him. So he will love us and create that way for us. And so that's why his compassion being poured into me, that will give me the motivation to want to do what is a blessing to others. In a way, not only in romance, but there is a courtship, right? So I know that sounds funny for me to use that, but I like that word because it is courtship, not coercion. Even with our own children, there's a lot of threats that they feel threatened, but sometimes we as parents, we don't know what else to say. Well, if you don't clean your room, well, you don't get dessert. Like some sort of they have to do this in order to get dessert. And that's true. I don't think they should get dessert if they don't clean their room. But there are different ways to elicit that behavior, right? There's different ways to do it compassionately. This image, if you're curious why I chose it, the cartoon figure of a passage in the Bible called The Road to Emmaus, where Jesus is walking alongside them. It took a long time for them to realize who he is and how much he loves them. And that's where that image comes from. Okay, so when speaking about relationships, the mental health professionals will refer to attachment theory quite often. If you have never heard about attachment theory, there's another YouTube channel of one of our seminars that we did for another organization. 3 different seminars actually on attachment. So that's really interesting, but I can only touch up on it here. And it explains attachment of secure attachment and insecure attachment, of how many of us, I would just say the majority, over 90% of us, had at least one point in time, maybe a large portion of our life, of insecure attachments when we didn't have a secure attachment figure. Right? So youth leaders and ministers, sometimes they end up becoming a child's secure attachment when they didn't experience secure attachment with their own parent or their own caregiver. And you only need one of the 2 parents in the home to have developed secure attachment. So this is a whole different set of lectures, but if you're interested in attachment theory of your own attachment, how did I grow up? What kind of insecure attachments did I grow up? Because that would definitely play a role in how you rear and raise your child and their secure or insecure attachment styles. And that would affect their future adulthood as well. So secure attachment is really important. And Dr. Daniel Siegel, a psychologist, he kind of summarized it with these 4 words that starts with the letter S. And this is the hallmark of how secure attachment can develop. Safe, seen, soothe, and secure. These first 3 words have to be present and have to be experienced by a child to develop that secure attachment. So much on the internet as well, if you'd like to read about that regarding attachment. So moving on, while remembering the aforementioned concepts, I wanted to just give you 5 words, because that's how I memorize things during med school, as acronyms and a bunch of lists. So I created 5 words with the letter P to maybe kind of ponder and think about during your parenting on a day-to-day or year-to-year basis. Purpose, presence, personal, patience, and prayer or ponder. So let's start with the first word, purpose. Right? Purpose is such a deep, big word, right? Oh, purpose. What's the purpose of my children? What's the purpose of having children? But regarding their purpose, right? You can instill in them, even at a young age, as soon as they're talking, well, even before they're talking, because they comprehend even in the womb, believe it or not. They start hearing your voice, they start hearing daddy's voice, and kind of start to be acquainted that there's a world out there. And they might not ask the question of, who am I? What's my purpose? My meaning? But you can start feeding that to them. The truth of what their meaning is, their value, their worth. Like, why are they here? It is not by accident, right? And it is not defined by circumstance, academic achievement, or sports achievement, or music achievement, right? All of that stuff. And is not defined by their behavioral excellence or perfection. Trust me, this is really hard. I grew up in an Asian family, obviously, because I'm Asian, right? And sometimes my purpose, I thought, was I've got to get straight A's. Looking at my report card and then seeing my behavior throughout the week and especially on Sundays. So I'm a pastor's kid, and I nailed it. I can look like and act like a PK. And then in my heart, I was like, right, very rebellious, but I knew how to hide it, So I didn't know what my purpose was growing up. My purpose was being a good PK so that I don't shame my parents, right? How sad that is, right? I was very oppressed growing up as a teenager. The next word to really focus on is presence. This is so tough when our daily lives are very busy, especially if you're juggling rearing your children and having a job and just taking care of everything, right? And even a full-time mom is so busy. And then you multiply that with like a couple of kids. You're just running around and you hardly have time to sleep, right? So it's not easy, even though our intention is very, very strong to be present and have a presence with our children. And living in the same house is not the same as presence. Being in the same room or eating at the same dining table is not the same as presence. What I'm talking about is literally sometimes needing to dedicate and even schedule it out. That sounds funny, but to show that you are present with undivided attention. This is so hard, right? And the reason why is you cannot expect your kids to approach you when they think they need your presence. Hey, mom, we haven't talked in a while. Can we have a little sit down and like have some coffee together? They're not going to ever do that, right? So even if they're in their room and they're on their phone, they want to watch TV or movie, of course, don't interrupt them in a movie, but they do want to have presence. They don't even know they want it, but they do want to have presence. And so this carving out time, I think, is probably the only way. It is the only way I can with my nephews. My disclosures, I don't have children, but I spend so much time with my nephews as much as possible. And that's easy for an aunt to do, to carve the time, because if I didn't, I will never see them, right? But when I am with them, it is like a focused, for example, 3 hours. To me, that's a long time. So 3 hours of sitting there, playing with them and chatting with them, and even in the car, thinking of questions to really engage with them. And then they know they have my undivided attention. So, so while you're together, right, and you're like, oh, what do I say? How do I do this? You want to hone in your skills of active listening. And so here's a little video clip. I think it's right here, right? To help us experience that. Okay, so this video clip was a really cute cartoon about like the difference between, and one of the key points that came out from that was sometimes they're talking to us, especially kids. It might just sound so trivial or like maybe even boring, but you have to act like you're very interested. Eye contact and leaning in and trying not to show that you're thinking about other things, like what are we going to do for dinner? What are we going to do tomorrow, right? And not bringing out your phone, right, and things like that. So, and asking reflective questions, trying not to interrupt, trying not to correct. That is very, very hard. And active listening, that's almost kind of like sure enough to terminate the conversation if you're like trying to correct something, and all they wanted to do was share, right? So even young children, they can tell the difference between passive listening and active listening, right? So if you're doing something else, you're on your cell phone or you're interrupting, that is not active listening, and they will withdraw. They'll shut down, they won't talk anymore. And then, unfortunately, if this continues on and they really don't think that mom and dad is a good person to talk to, they won't be able to phrase it. They're not good active listeners, right? They're not going to be able to phrase that. Then who are they going to turn to? Who are they going to confide in after that? It'll be their peers, right? Especially during the upper elementary, junior high, and high school time. Okay, the next word, we'll go really quickly. Personal. There is some overlap with presence with this word. We have to know, and everyone knows, that children, adults, everyone are different with unique experiences, memories, and perceptions, and even scars. And there's no such thing as a cookie cutter kid. How you connect with someone, with an individual, especially children who have special needs, it has to be personalized. It has to be different for each person. So with one child, you can kind of be fun and sarcastic sometimes and teasing, right? You can't do that with another child. And sometimes it's different, even within the family. The next one is patience. Oh, patience. This is probably one of the most difficult of the five. And it's funny that sometimes we can be more patient with our pets and plants compared to our kids, right? So this is definitely the most challenging to do, but I want to encourage you, there is a reward. If you practice just a little bit, even 10 seconds, holding back from what you wanted to say, you wanted to do, it gives you time to think. And it gives you a reduced chance of reactivity. Because if you're reactive just as much as your child is reactive, then it starts to become possibly war, right? And then everyone will escalate each other. But there is power of silence. And while you're doing that, you can show a face of like, you're pondering and thinking. They might be thinking, oh, what's my punishment, right? But in that time, you need time to formulate what you're going to say. And it's going to be very clever and witty, and it's going to be with full of like guidance of the Holy Spirit, perhaps, right? But be cautious. Patience does not equate to passivity. There are certain parents in the world that we've seen that they are so passive because they don't want to engage. They have a lot of fear of engaging in what it will turn into. And so sometimes fathers, a little bit more than mothers, are passive, and they have their own psychological reasons for that, but that's not equivalent to patience. Just wanted to take note of that. This last P, when things aren't going the way I planned, when I feel like I'm losing control, it takes a lot of humility to know that I need help, to know that there is help out there. And when we are feeling helpless, maybe sometimes hopeless, I wanted to encourage all of us that we do have a loving God, that there is a loving God who is eager and ready to give help. And sometimes he may even look passive because we're like, God, help me, right? But sometimes all he is waiting to do is, I'm waiting for you to ask me, and he'll jump right in to do so. And so that's the last P. So what could happen when we as caregivers, work on all of these areas that I just talked about and truly focus on relationship? Remember, that's the word I want you to take home. What could result? Trust, hope, courage for them, for our children, to be vulnerable and want to help, want the help, and want to receive it, to come to us, right? And of course, you're going to be so ready. Of course, I want to help you. Isn't that the position we're always in? Right? Please help me tie my shoelaces. Of course, honey, right? That kind of humility in them will start to arise. It's scary when teenagers think they know it all. I don't need mom and dad's help anymore. Right? But we need to hone in and nurture this relationship even beyond 18, right? That they still have someone to come back to, home to come back to ask for help and when they're in trouble. What could happen? Discovery of their true identity, uncovering their strengths and assets, and developing resilience. These are all so wonderful of things that could happen. And one more. This is every parent's dream, that their child will develop an internal motivation to reach their greatest potential. That is just so awesome. They may not be there yet, they may not reach it yet, you may not see it until much older, but you're in the stage of helping them, journeying with them to at least have that motivation to look for that, to search that, to reach that. So that's why our clinic, Oak Health Center, and our foundation, Oak Health Foundation, is the name Oak, because the seed of the acorn potential is an oak tree. That little seed potential can be an acorn. And so in both organizations of Oak Hill Center and Oak Hill Foundation, the Fully Health Clinic, we know as clinicians, we are there to help journey with our clients and our patients and their families to try to discover their greatest potential and help them remove obstacles. Okay, so the next slide is online resources for practical tips. Maybe Leslie can give you these as well, with the video clip as well, to have some ideas how to start engaging in your little quality time, the time of presence, and really develop that, so that they don't just look at you as mommy who puts the food on the table, mommy and dad who brings home the paycheck so that we can have bacon for breakfast. Mommy is always checking my homework, right? To see you beyond that, right? To see you beyond that, and that's what this relationship is all about. The next few final slides, I want to just really whiz through this. If you want the copies of this, I'm sure we can try to create a PDF for you of when to think about seeking professional help. There's truly, truly no shame in this. As a matter of fact, I am so proud of parents when they come. There's just one or two mothers. I usually meet them when there is a struggle going on, right? But there's just one mother. She's like asking me questions, and I said, what is your child's struggle, problem? She's like, oh, he doesn't have any. I just want to know, what to do when he does. I'm like, wow, right? To even come to me before something happens, I thought that was extraordinary. So a few of this is, if you see signs of persistent, deep sadness, depression, excessive anxiety, or changes of mood or behavior, then think about it. Inappropriate anger that's persistent, out of proportion for the situation, you could think about seeking help. Changes in friends or activities, especially if it's unusual, right? That is sometimes a reason to come. Eating problems, definitely, right? Eating problems is such a big, huge area in psychiatry and psychology. Increasing defiance. When I say increasing, it's defiant behaviors, you're going to see that, right? It's part of development. But we're talking about it's pretty bad, and it's happening every day, and now it's becoming very physical. Running away, definitely think about it. There is a reason why they're doing that. Participating in illegal activities, drug use, don't just think about it, just come, right? Come if you're seeing this. Failing in school, and then there's no explanation and nothing else is helping. Sexually acting out, definitely there is something going on and we can help you figure that out. And especially this one, I'm not going to say think about it, please come. Please seek help if there is self-injurious behaviors, suicidality, suicide talk. Even if they are saying, I want to die, I want to kill myself for attention purposes. Even if they're doing it for attention and you're like, well, it's not real, right? Don't risk it. And we can find out why they're doing that, right? Why they're using that to get attention or even manipulate. This is a definite good area to come. So if you do need a referral, you have many, many clinics around you. We're just representing two of them, Oak Health Center. Oak.care is the website for Oak Health Center. If you want to use insurance, we have at least 5 or 6 major insurances except Medicare and Medi-Cal and TRICARE, and maybe a few others. And the other one is fullyhealth.org. We don't accept insurances there, but sliding scale is absolutely possible for those who need it. And